All right, my friends. I just pressed the Let's Go Live button, so that means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the interwebs. Before we go ahead and get started, got to make sure those tubes are connected. Sometimes they don't connect themselves. That's not very good for us over here, and it looks like they are working. That's tremendous news. That means we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Govea. I am a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about Tish James over there in New York, because it turns out the witness that was the star of her entire prosecution against Donald Trump, this entire civil saga, you remember him, Michael Cohen. Without him, good argument, she had no place to jump off of to begin this entire prosecution against Trump. And what happened is we got a ruling from another court. Remember, Michael Cohen has already pleaded guilty to perjury, and he's been trying very hard to get off of probation. He's tried 3 times prior to today, and he tried a 4th time, and he got denied again. But not only did he get denied his probation, but this judge came out and ripped him one, because he's saying that, by the way, don't ask again, essentially. You're not getting your probation terminated because you either lied in this court when you took your plea deal, or you lied in Engoron's court when you testified for Tish. So wherever it is you lied, I don't know. I don't have the jurisdiction to go bring perjury charges against you or to rectify this, but you're not getting off probation. And so the question, of course, why did Tish rely on a liar who may have lied again in her case? And why did Engoron find the ruling against Trump, all based on this guy? So a federal judge confirming Michael Cohen is a liar, confirming. We also have some reaction from Cohen. Of course, he's saying that Trump, he's the star witness in the Trump prosecution, the Alvin Bragg case as well. And so they're using him to verify these Stormy Daniels records. And so this judge, again, is confirming this dude is a bona fide liar, and he is the centerpiece of all these prosecutions. We'll see what the judge says. Alina Habba is calling this what it is, a total and complete injustice. And Vivek, who's not going to be the vice president, it sounds like, is saying disbar Tish James. And so we'll see what he says. Trump was out on the campaign trail earlier this week, and he says the same thing. Yeah, this is rigged. It's crooked. There's a crooked judge and a crooked AG. And we got Melania, who is by his side on this clip. So we're going to go through all of that in the first segment, see what the convicted perjurer, Michael Cohen, is up to, the star witness of 2 prosecutions, okay? Tish and Bragg, as we'll get into. And then in our second segment, we're going to see what's happening with these 3 senior military officials who have submitted an amicus brief to the U.S. Supreme Court that is saying that they support Trump's immunity. Remember that stupid question that we heard from the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals from those 3 ladies who said that Trump did not have any immunity in their per curiam opinion? Well, one of them asked that question, was like, what if Trump decides to execute Congress? Well, what then, Mr. Trump defense lawyer? We're all like, oh gosh, what kind of a stupid question is this? But turns out it was really stupid, because these amicus individuals who wrote this are saying that it is illegal for the military to carry out something like that, right? The Uniform Code of Military Justice would prohibit them, and that the commander-in-chief doesn't have the presidential power to order them to commit crimes, right? So, of course, we'll read through that. It's actually a fun one, because it obliterates that ridiculous question from the DC Circuit. But the normal hyperventilators are out hyperventilating, including Liz Cheney. And she's very upset now. She's like, oh my gosh, our whole J6 fictional book report, little story time, is not going over so well. People don't believe us. Not only did she get thrown out of Congress, but now Donald Trump is looking like he's pulling ahead in the polls, and many people are saying Joe Biden has been a total disaster. So we'll see if Liz Cheney jumps in the race to try to peel off some support from Trump. We'll see. But she's saying we must have this trial before the election. It's all they have left. They can't beat him on the ideas or on the policy positions. So they just have to continue to wage their lawfare and their political battle against their opponents. Then we got the other liar of the recent stories, Cassidy Hutchinson, who apparently made up everything about that clavicle attack, because we heard from more reports from the Minority Report from the Congress individuals investigating this, said that Liz Cheney talked to the person who apparently told her about the story, and he said, I never told her the story at all. Anyways, she's back. She says, we need to vote for survival. And so we'll listen to these two knuckleheads and what their little entourage has to say in our second segment. But Trump has support in his immunity battle. 3 ex-military, former senior advisors in the military say immunity, not a problem for the president. Don't be so ridiculous. DC Circuit Court of Appeals. So as you can see, we've got some good business to attend to here on the day. I'm glad you are here and joining us. Of course, I hope your week is going amazingly well. Today's Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. Woo! And we're looking forward to that one. And we're glad that you're here. We got a busy week. Had a busy week. We're not done yet. This morning, we had a great members-only stream at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We talked about Latinos pour Trump, and that was a lot of fun, man. We had some Latino music going on. Trump has this new jingle out. It's really amazing. And so, it was a lot of fun. We had a little fiesta this morning. You can come join us. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We also do streams on Saturday, and it is a great community, and we really appreciate your support wherever you join us, whether you're joining us on YouTube or on Locals. It's a lot of fun. So we'll check that out. Come check that out. Also, if you want to take a look at any PDFs, we have 2 PDFs that we're going through today. We post those at robertgovea.com along with little summaries of what the segment was about. If you don't have time to watch a full 30, 40-minute segment, just read the report. And also, we have our newsletter there, so you can sign up there. That way you get all of the show reports delivered to your inbox, and you can forward them to your entire family. Also, watcherlodge.com. We have our Living with Meaning and Purpose masterclass, which is available over there. It's a 2-hour masterclass hosted by my mama and yours truly. You see us tucked up there in the corner right there. We talked about a lot of good stuff. There's PDF workbooks, PDF downloads, all sorts of stuff. And it's about learning about some tools that you can use to develop your meaning and purpose in your life. And it's awesome. So check it out, watcherlodge.com. All right. And now, without any further ado, my beautiful friends, let's get right to it, because we got some lying, convicted perjurer Cohen talk that we got to attend to. A federal judge confirms that Letitia James' star witness, Michael Cohen, is a liar. Now, we already knew this because he was convicted of perjury, but he lied again. And the argument is that he lied in Engoron's courtroom. Now, this is a big problem. He either lied in Engoron's courtroom or he lied in another courtroom when he was pleading guilty to the other crime. Any way you cut it, dude's a liar. And Letitia James, made him the star of her entire prosecution against Trump that resulted in $500 million judgment. Remember, it's not just me saying that it's Michael Cohen being the star witness. This came out during the trial itself, and people like ABC News were saying the same thing. Remember, this guy flipped. He was going to come and help Trump be removed from the game because he knew all the inside scoop. ABC News posted this back in 2023, October, said former fixer, now the star witness, Michael Cohen, is going to face Trump at the fraud trial. The whole thing started with him. He's the inside guy who apparently tipped off Tish, and she's been relying on him. He is the keystone, right? When the whole bridge comes together, that keystone at the top that connects the two. Without that, the whole thing crumbles. So he now has been called out in a separate case. And this is going to have some pretty, I think, serious implications for the credibility of all of these cases, because a federal judge in Michael Cohen's perjury case is now confirming that he's a liar. So let's go through that filing before we get some reaction from Cohen, Alina, Habba, Vivek, and of course, the man himself, President Trump. This is the filing in the case against Michael Cohen. So we're used to spending time in the Trump cases, but this is Michael Cohen as a defendant. So some time ago, Michael Cohen pleaded guilty, and we're going to go through what happened, but this is the US DOJ versus Michael Cohen. And what he's trying to do now is get off probation. He wants to terminate the penalty of this case because he's saying, I'm super cooperative with the government. I helped Tish. I helped her by testifying against Trump. Well, what if all that testimony was a lie? And a federal judge just said that. Here's the opinion in order. You see, this is Jesse Furman, U.S. District Judge, writing out of the Southern District of New York. He tells us some background. He says, all right, this is Cohen as a defendant. He says, we're here because defendant Cohen pleaded guilty to evading income taxes, to lying to banks and to Congress, and to violating campaign finance laws. That's why we're here. Now, on December 12, 2018, citing this veritable smorgasbord of fraudulent conduct, okay, that's a quote, not my line, I wish it was, that's pretty good, a veritable smorgasbord, I like it, of fraudulent conduct, the Honorable, another judge, William Pauley, sentenced Cohen principally to 36 months in prison. Remember that, right? Back in 2018, Cohen shows up, all this fraud, lying to the banks, lying to Congress, lying on his taxes, 36 months prison, and then 3 years of supervised probation, supervised release. Now, since that time, Cohen has applied multiple times for a reduction of his sentence, each time without success. First, Cohen, soon as he was finished, in December 2019, Cohen moved for a reduction of his term in prison pursuant to the rules of criminal procedure. Now, Judge Pauley, right, a different judge, denied that motion in March 2020. He said, no, you just what? December? You just pleaded guilty in 2018. It's been 1 year, weirdo. You're on 3 years probation. Don't come back after 1 year and say you're done. So he says, no, you're denied. Get out of here. Back on probation. Then between July 2022 and May 2023, after the case was reassigned to me because Judge Pauley died, Cohen's like, oh, perfect. Judge Pauley's dead. Perfect. Hated that guy. Didn't grant me an early termination of my release. Pfft. Good riddance. Then he's like, perfect. We can file a motion now since that old man's dead. So then Cohen filed 3 motions for early termination of his term of supervised release, which is due to expire in November of this year anyway. Right? He starts firing them off. Perfect. We got a new judge. Boom, boom, boom. The court denied all 3 of those. And in this opinion, the court, me, the judge, we turned to a 4th motion. We're on number 4 here. For early termination of Cohen's supervised release. And the question, honestly, this judge is like, whether sanctions are warranted. Because remember, Cohen cited those 3 fictional cases that don't exist to get off probation in this case. So here's the background. Now, the judge fills in the gaps for us. He says, all right, look. Convicted perjurer Michael Cohen, liar, says the relevant background begins with the court's denial of Cohen's 3rd motion for early termination. Right? So he files again. Judge is dead. This guy files another one. Now, in opposing that motion, so the DOJ, the Department of Justice, they alerted the court to the statements that Cohen had made in his recent book and all over the TV. So Cohen wrote a book called Revenge, right? And I don't know if it sold anything, but specifically Cohen, the DOJ told the court, because, okay, let's, zoom out. Court is sitting there. They're handling a bunch of other cases, right? A bunch of other stuff. This motion shows up from Michael Cohen. They're like, Cohen again? What? 3rd motion. They got to notify the government. The government says, hey, okay, judge, just want to let you know while you're considering whether to terminate him now. It's been about 2 years. Just want to let you know. He wrote a book and he's been on TV. And they tell the judge specifically, he falsely wrote in a book that he authored. He said that he did not engage in tax fraud. And that the tax charges were all 100% inaccurate, and that he was threatened by the prosecutors to plead guilty. Well, that's weird, because when you take a guilty plea, as we've talked about here before, the judge asks you that specifically. Has anybody threatened you, promised you anything in this plea to get you to do this, coerced you? Are you under the influence of drugs or alcohol? Do you speak English? Do you read and write English? Okay. And no, nobody promised me anything. Are you doing this of your own free will? Yes, all the questions, yes. So if he was threatened, that was the appropriate time to say that so that he could have brought it to the judge's attention and the judge could have addressed it. But he didn't. So he pleaded guilty and then he says it was all fake. Weird. And the prosecutors are noting that. Now, in an attempt to distance himself from his guilty plea, where he made false statements to a financial institution about tax medallion liabilities, Cohen stated on television, he showed up on MSNBC with Ari. He said, first and foremost, there was no fraud in the medallions. I don't even know what he's talking about. And he's quoting panic, Trump melting down over Cohen's arrest or imminent arrest, right? Trump was going to getting arrested. So the court denied Cohen's motion. They said substantially for the reasons set forth in the government's letter. It sounds like you have no remorse at all, Michael. We're not terminating anything early for you. And singled out the statements from his book and TV. Now, these statements, the court said, when they denied him, they suggest, hey, sorry, Michael, they suggest that a reduction of Cohen's supervised release would not serve the purpose of the sentencing, which is including deterrence, rehabilitation, and proportionality. So, you get a benefit by saying, I did it, I'm sorry, you admit I made a mistake, I'm going to be better, I promise, mom's here, she's going to look over me, I'm not going to do this again. You get some leeway for that traditionally. And then when Cohen comes out and writes in his book, that was all fake, I got threatened, it's not true. Everybody goes, what? Prosecutors say, what? Judge, what? So they say, okay, apparently you haven't learned your lesson, so we're not going to reduce your probation, obviously. So then undeterred, Cohen, through his counsel of record, David Schwartz, this is the judge writing, by the way, filed yet another motion seeking early termination of supervised release. Now, that was on November 29th. And something happened after that date, right? So David Schwartz, this guy says, okay, let's try this again, third time. In his motion, Schwartz argued that there had been a substantial change in circumstances since the last denial. Namely, guess what? Cohen testified for 2 straight days in New York versus Trump. That's Tish's case. Remember that? Cohen showed up and was the star witness, as ABC News mentioned. And he sat there and supposedly testified. Right. Now, Schwartz asserted that Cohen had endured 2 days of grueling cross-examination, and where Engeron was basically protecting him the whole time, and that his testimony had been widely lauded and publicized. Okay? So this is him basically justifying terminating his probation early because he got involved in the Tish case. It's a quid pro quo. Terminate my probation because I testified against Trump. I should get a benefit from that. Now, Cohen's, quote, willingness, wrote his lawyers, to come forward and to provide truthful accounts of his experiences, it demonstrates an exceptional level of remorse and a commitment to upholding the law that cannot be denied by this court or the U.S. Attorney General's office or the DOJ. So they said, right, he went and ratted out Trump. Now, in support of this motion, though, something weird happened, and you remember this because we talked about it. Schwartz cited and described 3 examples of decisions granting early termination. And you remember they cited these fake cases. They cited all these cases. U.S. versus Figueroa. That was a great case. And United States versus Ortiz. And United States versus Amato. But there was only one problem, writes the judge. The cases do not exist. Now, although the government failed to point that fact out in its opposition to Cohen's motion, E. Dania Perry, who entered a notice of appearance on Cohen's behalf following the government submission, disclosed in a reply that she'd been unable to verify the citations in the Schwartz filings. And so the court looked into it. Court said, where did these fake cases come from, Cohen? On December 12th, the court entered an order to show cause. Said, you're busted, buddy. You and your lawyer get over here. And we want order to show cause in writing why you should not be sanctioned pursuant to the court rules and the inherent power of the court for citing to non-existent cases. Now, the court directed Schwartz to provide a thorough explanation of how the motion came to cite cases that do not exist and what role, if any, Michael Cohen played in drafting and reviewing the motion before it was even filed. The court reserved judgment. So then Schwartz, right, the guy, so just to zoom out on this, a motion went in on their third attempt and cited fake cases that said, everyone else gets off probation. Look at these cases. Here's evidence of this. Turns out those cases didn't exist. So now Cohen's lawyer, who ultimately submitted it, got his own lawyer. So Cohen, also aided by Perry and these lawyers, they both responded, right? We read through, I think, Cohen's response. Now, with one exception discussed below, they tell about the same basic story about how these fake cases came about. In early November 2023, Schwartz, Cohen's lawyer, sent a draft of what would become the November motion to Cohen. He sends it over to Cohen. Now, Cohen asked Perry, who had not yet entered an appearance on this case yet, to provide feedback on the draft, which she did. So this is another person, Perry. Cohen has maybe another friend who's not on the case yet, or another lawyer. What do you think? Now, one comment which Cohen passed along to Schwartz was that the motion should cite a few cases that grant early termination. It's like, we probably should find some cases, like maybe, is there precedent for this? Hopefully, like, we should do some legal research. That might be a good idea. Good job. Good thinking, guys. So Cohen passed along to Schwartz. So apparently now it goes from Perry, right? We're playing the game of telephone, to Cohen, then from Cohen back over to Schwartz. Add some case law. Schwartz adopted what he understood to be Perry's suggestions, and he sent subsequent drafts back to Cohen. So he says, yeah, good idea. I will add some case law. Then on November 25th, Cohen gets this draft. Cohen then sent 3 emails to Schwartz with cases in question and summaries of the cases. So Cohen's like, yeah, that looks pretty good, but we need some case law. So Cohen had gotten the cases from, dun, 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 Google Bard. Oh no. Which he did not realize was a generative text service like ChatGPT. Oops. And he didn't realize that it could show citations and descriptions that looked real, but actually were not. No. Instead, he thought it was like a supercharged, super magical, super duper search engine. Yeah. That just spits out whatever you want, cases that just are made up. According to Cohen, he didn't have access to, Westlaw, which is an actual legal service, or other standard resources for confirming details of the case. And he trusted Mr. Schwartz and his team would vet those new cases before incorporating them into the motion. Now, that trust, the judge says, proved to be unfounded. Although Cohen's emails made no reference to Perry, Schwartz believed that the cases had been found by Miss Perry, given the earlier back and forth. Didn't think it came from Cohen. He's like, if I would have known it came from Cohen, I never would have used him. That guy's an idiot. Because of Miss Perry's reputation, right? She's a renowned and skilled trial lawyer. And so Schwartz did not independently review the cases because she's actually a competent person. Now, he notes that he never contemplated that the cases were non-existent, that their inclusion in his motion was an honest and an unfortunate mistake. He had no intention of deceiving the court. And the first he learned about this was when the court issued its order to show cause. He goes, oh, no. He then spoke to Perry's colleague, who informed him that Cohen, not Perry, had been the source of the cases. Now, Schwartz professes that he would have researched the cases if he knew that they came from Cohen. He's like, that guy is like dumb. So he acknowledges that he bears responsibility and the submission that the inaccuracies in it were completely unacceptable. He sincerely apologizes for not checking the cases before personally submitting them. Like, I can see that happening, right? Like, that guy's, he's probably doing Cohen a favor. He's like, oh, this guy's so annoying. Just stop calling me. All right, I'll file your stupid motion for you. Files it. It should be a simple, motion to terminate probation, like very simple, not a big deal. The case is closed. Judge says no. What's the worst that can happen? Judge says yes. Great. It's successful. It's like a very low risk motion, low risk filing, except when it's Michael Cohen's. He creates fake cases that get you called into court on an order to show cause. Now, as noted, Schwartz and Cohen, their recollections differ in one respect. We're not even at the lying stuff yet, right? This is just his incompetence. We haven't even gotten to the lies yet, which are coming. Schwartz recalls that Cohen had, before sending him the cases in November, Schwartz says that Cohen told him that the cases would be provided by Miss Perry, right? Schwartz says, look, I'm pretty sure Cohen told me they were coming from Perry. He didn't tell me they were coming from him. which was one reason that he believed the cases came from Perry, because Cohen told him that. Now, Cohen denies that he said anything of the sort to Schwartz, although he does not dispute Schwartz's claim that Schwartz mistakenly believed in good faith that the cases had come from Perry. My guess is, right, that these are just kind of friends of Cohen. Cohen is probably just trying to do this all on the cheap and trying to, have people just do him favors and not pay stuff, right? He doesn't want to get billed for all this. So he just is trying to do some research on himself. He's like, I'm a lawyer. I'm smart. I can do this. Oops. In the court's view, that discrepancy is ultimately inconsequential. Okay. I don't know if Schwartz did it, based on that or not. But at most, Cohen told Schwartz on some unspecified date that Perry would later provide cases. Schwartz does not suggest, and the record does not show, that Cohen identified Perry as the source of the problematic cases. And moreover, even if Cohen did not say anything to Schwartz to suggest that Perry would provide the cases, Perry's comments on the initial draft that Cohen forwarded to Schwartz provide a good faith basis for Schwartz's belief that Perry was the source. All right. So, in other words, Perry was in the document. They were sending this draft back and forth. Perry was in the document. So he saw some of her comments. So he thinks she's involved. Now, you see how extensive this investigation is, right? This judge is really upset about this. They're breaking this down play by play. Now, all of that is to say that the court credits Schwartz's testimony, Cohen's lawyer, that he genuinely, but mistakenly, believed that the cases had come from Perry, that he did not independently review the cases based on that belief. He would have researched the cases had he known that Cohen was the source, and he did not intend to deceive the court. Too bad, gulags. Sorry. New standards. No one's above the law. Sorry. In light of the foregoing submissions, the record is complete, and two discrete issues are therefore ripe for this court's decision. First, whether Cohen's supervised release term should be terminated early, and second, whether there should be sanctions for citing the non-existent cases. The court will address each in turn. So again, we are in Cohen's criminal case, and the judge is about to blast him for lying in Tish's case, which is a separate case, but this is federal court versus state court, and we're going to see whether there are consequences that will spill out of this. So Cohen now is asking for early termination. He says, first of all, this first issue can be addressed relatively swiftly. Cohen wants to terminate this thing, and I know a court may terminate probation anytime after the expiration of 1 year, if I revisit certain factors, and I think it's warranted and in the interest of justice. Now, in particular, the court says, if I'm considering Cohen, here are the things I'm supposed to look at. Should I terminate his probation early, his supervised release? Deterrence, public safety, rehabilitation, proportionality, and consistency. Now, significantly, we don't terminate probation and release early as a matter of course. It's actually only occasionally justified. Otherwise, it needs to be the same. It's got to be exceptionally good behavior, and that's that. Now, in light of those factors, right? So the court just gave us those factors: deterrence, public safety, rehabilitation, and so on. He says, well, I've thought about this, and Cohen's latest motion for early termination is denied. Sorry, Michael. Fourth time. Failed again. Womp, 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 womp. Cohen's principal basis for his renewed motion was his October testimony in the Trump trial. Again, right? So Cohen is saying, I deserve a benefit because I went and did this. Now, that is motivation for him. He can only testify if he has something to say. And he needs to testify whether or not he has the truth to say, so that he can use that as justification to get his probation terminated early. He is playing this game with Tish so he can take the benefits of that game and get off probation and get a benefit that makes his other testimony lacking in credibility because he has an improper motive to do it. Now, as the government notes, however, that testimony, okay, so he says, I helped Tish go get Trump, look. But the DOJ is responding and they say, actually, Judge, that testimony in and of itself is why you should deny his motion and not grant it. That testimony itself is problematic. Here's why, and this is in the Tisch trial. Specifically, Cohen, during the Tisch trial, this is a federal judge writing, repeatedly and unambiguously testified at the state court trial that he was not guilty of tax evasion, that he had lied under oath to Judge Pauley, and when he pleaded guilty to those crimes. That's this case. This judge, right? He's picking this up. He says, wait, what? Wait a minute. You were in Tisch's courtroom with Judge Engeron, and Judge Engeron, in his opinion, said that he trusted Michael Cohen. He said, Michael Cohen is credible. He went through a whole stupid filing, several paragraphs, pages, and we read through it. So he says, the DOJ is telling the court now that he lied. Here is the testimony. The judge, this is a federal judge. I can't, again, to cite just a few examples, here's the judge. Question to Michael Cohen on the stand. Hey, Michael, did you lie to Judge Pauley when you said that you were guilty of the counts that you said under oath that you were guilty of? Did you lie to Judge Pauley? Yes, says Michael Cohen. And we covered that. We go, wait, whoa, what? You lied to a federal judge in your guilty plea? Oh, man, that's not good. And you just admitted that under oath in your trial with Tisch? And I think this was Alina Habba who was doing this cross. He says, yes, I did. Footnote 4. Here it is. Transcript refers to the transcript, which you can find in these court filings. Oh, so yeah, that's a pretty big deal. So the judge, like, this is not Judge Pauley anymore, rest in peace. But the other judge is saying, oh, so, okay, so in this case number, this one right here, you lied. Yes. Here's another example from the judge. Okay, but you earlier testified that you omitted, you said you didn't evade taxes. Isn't that right? You said, I didn't evade taxes. I did say that. Right. So you lied when you said that you evaded taxes to a judge under oath. Is that correct? Michael Cohen. Yes, that's correct. I lied to a judge. This was Tisch's star witness, okay? He was on the stand. It all emanated from him. Question for Michael Cohen. And in response to those questions from Judge Pauley, who's in this case, you lied to him. True? That is true. That's true. And again, remember, I explained that the judge will go through a whole list of questions. The judge isn't like, hey, Michael Cohen, good to see you. Do you take this plea deal? Yeah. All right, cool. See you later, right? It's a long, drawn-out process. They hold up the doc. Is this your signature? Do you see this? They go paragraph by paragraph by paragraph. Anybody promise you anything not contained in this document? If there's any hesitation, the lawyer paused the whole thing, right? The Hunter Biden plea deal went off the rails because of this process. He's like, I was promised stuff that was outside, and he didn't take the deal, to his idiocy. He really blew that one, but whatever. But so here, the questions are, you're under oath, you're getting a benefit for what you're saying, and he lied to the judge. So, Sir Cohen, you lied at the time. You lied more than once in federal court, correct? Correct. When the stakes affected you personally, right? You lied. Correct. And you misled a federal judge. Is that right? Yes. And he's going to be the star witness for Alvin Bragg. And he was the star witness for Letitia James. That has resulted in $500 million that Trump has to come out with on bond. The judge read the transcripts and said, this guy is a flat out liar. He either lied to the judge about committing those crimes or lied in court or lying everywhere. The judge continues, says, this testimony is more troubling than the statements than Cohen had previously made in his book on television. Okay, these are statements that the court had specifically cited in denying Cohen's third motion for early termination. Right? So in other words, we denied it the third time for the television statements and his book. This is way worse. Now, because it was given under oath, now this is the judge writing, it gives rise to two possibilities here. One, Cohen committed a new crime of perjury when he pleaded guilty before Judge Pauly. Either he's committed a crime there, or two, Cohen committed perjury in his October 23 testimony with Tish. Either one. You can't have it both ways. He testified October 2023, and there's either perjury in one of the two. So which one? So he should be charged with a new crime immediately for this, okay? Alvin Bragg is going to call him as a witness in his criminal prosecution of Trump, even though a new crime may have been committed in New York in that courtroom of perjury. And if not, then there was a crime committed in Judge Pauly's courtroom for perjury. Either way, it is perverse to cite the testimony, as Schwartz did, as evidence of Cohen's commitment to upholding the law, right? He lied to a federal judge. And either way, it would undermine rather than serve the purposes of sentencing incorporated by reference, including deterrence or rehabilitation or proportionality, to terminate, to even think about terminating his supervised release before its natural expiration in November this year. At minimum, Cohen's ongoing and escalating efforts to walk away from his prior acceptance of responsibility for his crimes are manifest evidence of the ongoing need for specific deterrence. Now, to be clear, this court does not rely in any way on the citation to the non-existent cases as a basis for denying the motion. Now, among other things, as discussed below, the court agrees that the fault there was with the lawyer, not with Cohen. So we're not penalizing Cohen for the lawyer's submission, but we're penalizing Cohen for his lying. In her reply brief on Cohen's behalf, Perry, Cohen's other lawyer, right now he's not working with Schwartz, Perry tries valiantly to paint his testimony in a more positive light, right? She contends, she says, no, he didn't commit perjury, of course not. She contends that the government, which emphasized Cohen's testimony in its opposition, mischaracterizes and selectively quotes from his testimony. We just read it. She insists that Cohen's testimony, she says, actually reflects something very different than what the government argues, which was an attempt to articulate his belief that such conduct should not have been the basis for a criminal prosecution, right? Not that I'm not guilty of the crime, it's that the crime, that should not be a crime. But these efforts turn a sow's ear into a silk purse. What the heck kind of idiom is that? But these efforts to turn a sow's ear into a silk purse fall flat. That's a new one on me, my friends. Cohen's testimony was not, as Perry contends, a clumsy or poorly worded attempt to argue that, while he committed the crimes that he pleaded guilty to, that the government abused its prosecutorial discretion in charging those crimes. To the contrary, right, he's not complaining that he's not, like, they were unlawful prosecutions. He's saying, I didn't do the crime. The law was valid, but I didn't commit the crime. Not that the law is invalid. To the contrary, he unambiguously testified in Letitia's trial that he did not commit tax evasion and that he lied. He admitted that he lied to Judge Pauly when he had said that. Moreover, when given multiple opportunities to retreat or to clarify that testimony later, Cohen stuck to his guns, perhaps recognizing that the transcript belies her zealous efforts at a spin. This is the judge, like this Perry person. Perry falls back onto the alternative argument. Perry says that Cohen's 23 testimony, if true, would simply mean that Cohen, like countless other defendants before him, felt compelled to agree to a plea deal under severe pressure, which maybe that's true. Cohen is free to make that claim publicly, but he can't do that and simultaneously ask this court to shorten his sentence, which, when he has demonstrated an exceptional level of remorse. Like, well, okay, don't tell us that he's remorseful if he's clearly not remorseful. Like, come up with a different basis, or don't ask us to terminate this. Now, in short, they say there was a substantial change in circumstances between Cohen's third application and this one, his fourth, but that change was his testimony in Tish's trial, which was either perjurious, he lied, or it confirms that he committed perjury before this court. So he lied in New York, in Tish's case, or in this courtroom. Either one makes plain that Cohen should be required to serve out the remainder of his supervised release. And so accordingly, the motion for termination is denied. And here's another section. The question, of course, is about those fake cases. Should there be sanctions for that lawyer? I don't know. Let's see what the judge says. In its order to show cause, we issued 3 different grounds that we can sanction you on. He says there's no doubt that sanctions can be imposed on at least some of the grounds for these citations to other cases. The judge actually cites some real cases here. Significantly, however, to impose sanctions, we got to find some bad faith. And so we got to find that there was some bad faith here. And here, in light of these standards, we're compelled to conclude that sanctions may not be imposed on Schwartz. His citation is certainly embarrassing, and it's certainly negligent, and he should feel bad. It might even be grossly negligent, but the court cannot find that it was done with bad faith. Schwartz understandably believed the cases had come from someone competent. Everyone knows Cohen's an idiot, and so you can't fault the guy. As Schwartz himself concedes, it was plainly his responsibility, but he says he thought he had accuracy in Perry's reputation. And the court says he seems like he was honest. It was an unfortunate mistake, and he fell on the sword, right? Which is, you get a benefit when you do that. Perry, in responding to this, Perry, right? Even a quick read of the citation should have raised an eyebrow. The citations were bizarre. They were all from the same court, like back-to-back years. You're like, you seriously? There's like 3 cases exactly on point for the very issue that I need that all happened last year. That's incredible. Out of the Court of Appeals? Wow. It's like, that's not how this works. That may be so, but it still was extreme carelessness, but not intentional bad faith. So there's no basis to impose sanctions on Cohen for this citation problem. The court's order to show cause did not alert Cohen to the possibility of sanctions, but still it wouldn't be warranted. Cohen is a party to this case, and as a disbarred attorney, is not an officer of the court anymore. So it's surprising, he says he's still an idiot. He's entitled to rely on his counsel, but given the amount of press and attention that Google Bard and other generative AI tools have received, it's pretty surprising that Cohen believed it to be like a supercharged search engine that produces magical case citations for free. You know how much Westlaw costs? Do you know how much LexisNexis costs? It's very expensive. So if Google Bard just, enveloped all of those different search tools, he's a lawyer. He knows this. The magical search engine that just spits out exactly what you need. Incredible. Judge doesn't believe it, right? But the court has no basis to question his representation that he believed them to be real. I mean, he's an idiot. What can you say? What can you do? Indeed, it would have been downright irrational for him to provide fake cases for Schwartz knowing they're fake, given the probability that Schwartz would discover him or that the government would discover them. So we don't think that Cohen was also that stupid, but he was stupid. So, all right. In sum, as embarrassing as this unfortunate episode is for Schwartz, and it's like memorialized in this document for all eternity, if not Cohen, the record does not support the imposition of sanctions, even against the lawyer. And so for the foregoing reasons, the court denies Cohen's latest motion for early termination and declines sanctions. And so the court's directed, so ordered. Signed by Judge Jesse Furman, United States District Judge. So you see there, this is a bona fide ruling from a judge that, in a normal country where we had prosecutors that didn't like people lying to courts, they would take action on this, charge him with perjury, because it's very clear. He either lied to the court in Letitia's case, or he lied to the federal judge when he took his plea deal. And Tish made her entire case based off this guy. Now, we got reaction. Cohen is commenting, this guy is right? Now a clear liar according to a federal judge and according to his convictions. He's going to be the star witness in the Alvin Bragg prosecution, in addition to Tish's prosecution. And so listen to this little bit of an exchange about this guy and what he's trying to do to sell his books.
Michael, while Trump isn't fully planning to use a advice of counsel defense, he's filed some notice that says that he still intends to make the case that he lacked the required criminal intent to commit the charged crimes against him because people like you were handling the hush money payments. What do you make of Trump trying to thread this needle, hoping to keep his attorney-client privilege sacred and intact while still trying to punt all the blame on you?
Yeah, well, of course, that's exactly what Donald does. It's deflect, deflect, deflect. And as you said, delay for another day. You know, Katie, I don't.
Now watch him deflect right now, okay? She asks him a pretty pointed question about attorney-client privilege and reliance of advice of counsel. And watch him say Trump deflects, and he just deflects right now. Watch.
I don't want to get into too much of this, of the case itself, the Manhattan DA's case, because I don't think it's fair to them. Let me just say that there is something called the crime fraud exception rule, which, of course, would negate this altogether. But again, I don't really want to get into too much of the case. One of the things that we do know is that there are documents that Donald and his legal team were not given. And I stand with Ms. McCord, who was just on your show a few moments ago. Everyone, including Donald Trump, is entitled to the full set of discovery in order to defend themselves. Now, of course, except for Michael Cohen, because one of the things I talk about in my book, Revenge, specifically it's page 235, is getting documents from the government, especially when the government knows that they've done something wrong. And I'm not talking about the Manhattan DA here. I'm talking about the Southern District of New York. We have been asking under FOIA for documents, both from the Southern District of New York and from Department of Justice for 3 years. Now, it's not just Michael Cohen asking for it, and I do have Mark Zaid in one case, I have Jeff Levine in another case, but we have been asking them for 3 years. You know who else asked Katie for the documentation so that they could look into it to investigate the weaponization of the Justice Department by Donald J. Trump, Bill Barr, and others? Hakeem Jeffries.
All right, so I don't even know what he's talking about there. So we're talking about he's supposed to be a witness in this upcoming Trump trial. In his book, that was adverse to his plea deal, and a federal judge just called him a liar, and now he's talking about, I don't even know what he's talking about. So we'll see where this goes, but how can you be a prosecutor like Bragg and put a liar on the stand, someone who's already been convicted of perjury, and someone who may have committed perjury literally at the last trial, like literally at the very last trial he testified in, right next door in Tish's courtroom with anger on. He lied, and he's going to be the key witness for Alvin Bragg yet again. And he's out there trying to sell his lying book. So this is Alina Habba. She's responding to what's happening in New York, obviously calling it a total and complete injustice, because it is. Let's hear from Trump attorney Alina Habba.
Court deciding, the appellate division deciding that perhaps they're going to make some modifications to this judgment.
Right. Well, our argument in front of the appellate division is that forcing him to sell prized properties such as Trump Tower, iconic properties like 40 Wall Street, to pursue his appeal is manifest injustice, and it deprives him of that due process that we are all entitled to. So imagine you can't reverse selling off Trump Tower on a fire sale at a discounted price. We can't fix that if we win on an appeal. So it's complete injustice. And only a handful of sureties, as we stated, are approved by the United States Department of Treasury to even underwrite bonds of this size. So of those, even those very limited handful amounts, they're limited to policies with even single bonds up to maybe 100 million. None of them accept hard assets. They require cash or cash equivalents, such as marketable securities. The ask of Judge Engoron is completely ridiculous. He knew that, or if he didn't know that, then he should have educated himself on it. But it is intentionally to interfere in the election, to hurt President Trump, to try and ruin his company and ruin a person and a family whose private company, not public company, has made the skyline of New York changed forever and made so many jobs, created jobs, taxes to New York. It's a disgrace, Martha. So we're waiting on those reasons that we've stated in our appeal and many more. But that's just a summary of what we're waiting on the appellate division to do.
Alina, do you have any sense of whether or not the appellate division is sympathetic to this argument and what their time frame might be
I can't imagine they are.
Respond to it? Because 5 days is not that much time.
We got Monday.
No, it's not that much time. And we pressed the fact that this is urgent. And I will say the appellate division has been great in looking at these things in a timely manner. There were days where we've taken things to the appellate division and waited to be heard, and they heard us. They definitely, we can tell, have listened to our arguments fairly. You know, don't forget this case.
And real quick, they are now saying that they are about to seize this property, Seven Springs. This is some of the latest rumors here, that Tish has filed notices with the courts in Seven Springs saying that she may close on that property. And I was wondering if that was part of the original litigation in the first place, right? Why isn't she going after? She said she had her eyes on Trump Tower, and I thought that was part of the actual litigation. But is she going after properties that are not a part of the litigation? That'd be curious.
The judge had a trial where he disregarded the appellate division that shortened the statute of limitations here and said that this case was limited and that he just disregarded it. So that in itself should, you know, to me, just this judge put his nose up to the appellate division, disregarded the rule of law, disregarded the higher court. And in that alone, you know, they should take that into account, let alone the other injustices that we saw for those 11 weeks in trial.
Right on. Alina, Habba explaining what's going on, that they're having a difficult time getting a bond because it's an insane bond. And we have been wondering if Trump is just going to say, all right, let's call your bluff. Go take a building. Let's see how that looks to America. Go put a big fat padlock on Trump Tower and tell everybody this is our building now, and see what people say about that all throughout the country. Vivek, who is not going to be the vice president, apparently, is saying that Tish needs to be disbarred, and I think he's absolutely right about this. And hopefully more people start calling for, you know, the licensing agencies to take a look at these prosecutors because they are violating their ethical obligations. Here's Vivek.
The Letitia James crusade against Donald Trump is disgusting and is a threat to every American. When you have prosecutors who are elected to office on a promise of going after one particular individual as she campaigned on, then go on to keep a campaign promise using the legal system to do it, it's unjust. And this particular case reveals how ugly that is. In this case, you're talking about a crime for which there was literally no identifiable victim. The people who did business with Donald Trump weren't individual consumers. They were sophisticated financial institutions who made money from their dealings. And yet Letitia James is using a consumer protection statute to literally make up numbers and say, hey, you have hundreds of millions of dollars in penalties that you owe. You have bond to post by a particular date of an unreasonable magnitude that even no billionaire is regularly able to meet. And to say, if you don't do it, I'm going to start seizing your property. It's disgusting, and it is a threat to not only private property, but threat to the justice system and to the rights of every American. But the good news is there is an argument to push back against this in short order. And that's the Eighth Amendment. The Eighth Amendment prevents the imposition of excessive bail or excessive fines. And if there's ever an example that meets that to a T, it's the bond that's been demanded of Donald Trump in this disgusting New York Letitia James-led prosecution. This is an opportunity for the Supreme Court to step in and say, no, we're not going to stand for this kind of lawfare. Whether it's against Donald Trump or a Democrat, it's wrong. We don't want to empower prosecutors to be able to use bond and bail or bonds as a way of effectively achieving a goal that they couldn't achieve through the front door, which is bankrupting an opponent, even stopping them from being able to appeal those decisions. That's un-American.
Costing them millions.
It needs to end now, not just for the protection of Donald Trump, but for the protection of every American. And in this disaster, I at least see a silver lining of some hope that that's exactly what we'll get from the Supreme Court. It's not just the current justices, not even the conservative ones, that would necessarily agree with this principle. Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a staunch defender of this part of the Eighth Amendment as well. She's no longer with us, but the other justices are. And I hope this can be another 9-0 rebuke of the kind of lawfare that we're seeing against Donald Trump and indirectly against every American in this country today. And I think it could be the most important Eighth Amendment case of the 21st century. I hope they bring it, and I hope they succeed.
Trump's making a lot of history, a lot of case law being made around this man because they're so petrified that he might win again, that they're doing everything they can to stop him, including perverting and twisting our legal system beyond even recognition. Here was Trump. He was out earlier this week on the campaign trail. I think he was voting for himself in the primaries. Well done. And here was what he was saying when he was asked a couple questions out by the media.
I'm just going to leave you for a second, Senator. Donald Trump, after voting in Florida for the Florida primary, is speaking to reporters right now in Palm Beach. Let's listen.
But that's the way it is. They treated him very, very badly.
Will Paul Manafort come back to your campaign, sir?
I don't know anything about it, but he was another person that was treated badly, and he was a patriot. But we'll see what happens with that. We have a lot of people involved in the campaign that have done a tremendous job, and based on the polls, we're doing extremely well. Extremely well.
Mrs. Trump, are you going to return to the campaign trail with your husband?
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Are you confident that you can pay the $464 million?
I built a great company, one of the greatest companies anywhere in the country, especially when it comes to real estate. Have some of the greatest assets in the world. And this is a rigged trial. This was a rigged trial by a crooked judge and a crooked attorney general.
With a lying witness.
We're fighting it out with them. We have a lot of cash and we have a great company, but they want to take it away, or at least take the cash element away. Billions of dollars in value, billions of dollars in properties, but they'd like to take the cash away so I can't use it on the campaign. And this is just a corrupt group of people. It's election interference, and we'll see how the courts rule on it. And I'll be guided. I'll be guided by the courts.
All right, that's the president and the first lady out there responding to the crooked and rigged process that's happening all over New York. And now a federal judge in Michael Cohen's case confirms he lied again. He either lied in court or he lied in court. He either lied when he took his guilty plea or he lied in Tish James's courtroom. And Judge Engeron said that he believed that. So we have a pretty big conflict here where liars are allowed to take the stand and bring in key evidence against certain individuals who are on a politically disfavored part of the American conversation. And so we're going to be here continuing to cover this case and the other cases. Of course, this guy is going to be the center, the hub of the Bragg prosecution, if that gets back on track. And we're going to see what these appeals look like now that it's confirmed by a federal judge he's a perjurer again. We're going to be covering it, my friends. Thank you for joining us as we do. Thank you so much for liking this video, subscribing wherever it is you're watching it. Thanks for inviting a friend or family member to come over and join us when we go live. We got some great links down in the description below. Check out robertgovea.com to see the PDF that we just reviewed and to sign up for our newsletter. We also have watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is where we have our members only community. We do streams in the morning. We do shows on Saturday. We'd love to see you there and right back here on the next one. But we're not done yet. We got one more segment to attend to. And now we're at the Supreme Court. 3 former senior military officials file an amicus brief in the U.S. Supreme Court supporting Trump's immunity. You remember that ridiculous question from those judges at the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. What if Trump asks SEAL Team 6 to eliminate his political opponents or half of Congress or whatever? And of course, that's a ridiculous question, not only because if that happens, if half of Congress gets obliterated, we're kind of in a bigger problem, but also because the military would not do that. That is an illegal order. And so 3 senior officials submitted this amicus. We'll read through it and then hear from the others who are involved in the TDS deluge, saying that we've got to have a trial before the election. And Clavicle Girl, who is a liar, is saying we have to vote against Trump to save America, because they say that Trump's an insurrectionist, a little dictator who's going to commandeer the military, but the military doesn't think so. This is what was submitted to the Supreme Court. The brief for 3 former senior military officials, we'll learn who they are, in support of Donald Trump in his petition to SCOTUS for immunity. It is a filing that includes some good authorities, but they give us At the beginning, an introduction. They say, big question. Could a president order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival? Remember that ridiculous question? That question was posed by a member of the panel at oral argument in the court in D.C. Now, the Amicus, the amici who are filing this, who have served as military combat generals and senior officials at the Pentagon, and who've held other senior executive positions, submit an answer to the panel in D.C. The answer is a resounding no. A president of the United States enjoys broad authority to direct the military with very few limitations, but one limitation is that the president's orders may not contravene the Constitution or the laws of the United States. And so accordingly, the president has no authority to order the military to assassinate a political rival. And furthermore, the military is required not to carry out such an unlawful or non-military order if given. Indeed, any military officer who carried out or issued such an order would be committing the gravest of crimes, which is called murder. Now, whether or not a president has the immunity that they claim, we don't know. But we do know that a president cannot order the military to assassinate a political rival and actually have that order carried out. So if you're going to hyperventilate about that, Justice Sotomayor, Justice Kagan, or Ketanji, well, relax, okay? We wouldn't do it anyways. Now, amici are three former high-ranking military leaders. Their military and Pentagon service spans more than half a century under 10 presidents of both political parties with widely divergent policy agendas. Amicus Secretary Robert Wilkie served as the Pentagon under Bush, and he also served under Trump, the third highest ranking position in the Pentagon. He served in the Navy, the Air Force, attaining the rank of colonel. He had concluded his service as a public official in the Trump administration, Secretary of Veteran Affairs. Dude's qualified. Boom. Amicus number 2. Retired Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, Vietnam veteran, Commander, Special Operations, 82nd Airborne. Later served in the Trump administration, Executive Secretary and National Security Council and National Security Advisor, acting NSA. He's currently the co-chair for the Center for American Security, also qualified. This other guy is another amicus, Gerald Boykin. Distinguished combat career, included the attempted rescue of the Americans during the Iranian hostage crisis, commander of the Army's elite Delta Force, and commanded all the Green Berets and the JFK Special Warfare Center, which trains the Green Berets. Also served in the Pentagon in the civilian role of the Defense for Intelligence, currently the executive VP of Family Research Council. Okay. So this dude, like if you wanted somebody to take out, your political opponents, it's probably this dude, right? Like he would be the dude to do it. Take the Army's Delta Force. So here's their argument. They say, all right, listen, ridiculous hyperventilators from the DC circuit. The president has broad authority to issue military orders, but there are some noteworthy limitations. One limitation is that the president has no authority to order the military to assassinate someone because he's a rival, okay? Nor would the military carry that out. Under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, the UCMJ, any military officer who carried out or issued an order would be committing a crime called murder. In addition, Executive Order 1233 prohibits any person employed by the government from conspiring to assassinate. And so thus, no military officer has the legal authority to carry out a murder or assassination. And so the answer is pretty simple. The answer to the panel's question is no. The president cannot order the SEAL to assassinate his political rival and have the military carry out such an order. Here is the legal background. At the oral argument, they asked that question. Could a president order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate his rival? In response, counsel for the petitioner for Trump said, well, you would have to be and would speedily be impeached and convicted before the criminal prosecution, right? Which is the right answer. If you said that this was a lawful order, right? If you said that was a lawful order, you'd say, well, you'd have to challenge that. You say it's not a lawful order. How would you do that? Through impeachment. He would be impeached and prosecuted. Now, numerous media outlets all seized on this. Trump lawyer says that he could assassinate. Well, the D.C. Circuit's opinion seemingly referred to this exchange, stating that petitioners' proposed interpretation still would leave with the president, who would be free to commit all manner of crimes with immunity so long as he's not impeached and convicted. Right? And that's what their excuse was, which is why they couldn't find that Trump had immunity, because then he could just do whatever he wants, which is obviously ridiculous because all you would have to do is impeach him. But in Amici's view, the panel member's question may be answered with a firm no. To be clear, there may be circumstances in which a president may order the military to use lethal force against particular individuals to protect national security. That's the Jack Bauer 24 situation. But no such circumstances were referenced in their question. So the answer to the question the panel asked is that a president simply cannot order that to happen. Can't happen. Now, the office of the president has broad authority when it comes to foreign military affairs, but the ordering of military to bring about the death of a political rival for personal gain is not one of them. Under the British form of government from which the United States won independence, the king can do no wrong. That's from Blackstone. But that is not how we do things in our country under our Constitution. Under the Constitution, no one in the national government, no one may deprive another of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. That's the Constitution. President is not exempt from that. Now, the fundamental guarantee is not repealed by the constitutional provision stating that the president shall be the commander-in-chief. Jackson agreed that this clause undoubtedly puts the armed forces under the presidential command, but he rejected the notion that it provides support for any presidential action involving the use of force with the Navy or anything like that. The president's command power is not so absolute that it allows him to be, have a militaristic system that overrides the republic. The Constitution gives the president no authority to declare martial law or suspend the Bill of Rights. The court talked about this. Martial law destroys every guarantee of the Constitution and renders the military independent of and superior to civil power. Now, the attempt to do which by the King of Great Britain was deemed by our fathers such an offense, they are irreconcilable. You cannot have the two together. And so military law and executive orders forbid this. The United States Armed Forces embody cherished American values and principles. Respect for innocent life is amongst them. And that's why we're the most effective fighting force in the world. But we have a solemn duty and an awesome power to respect life and to support and defend the Constitution. And murder is a crime under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. It says any person who unlawfully kills a human is guilty of murder. And that would not be allowed. So therefore, any officer who engaged in the murder on the orders of the president would be subject to the death penalty, and the officer would know it. The executive order also bars assassination. And military officers are just simply not required to carry out unlawful orders. Any presidential order to use the military would be a grave felony crime, and any military officers who knowingly issued or carried out the order would also be criminally liable. And the rules of court-martial are promulgated by the president and are a mechanism by which the commander-in-chief implements the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And they may assert defenses, but only if the order is lawful. Now, this is seen in Article 92. The military is by design hierarchical. So while it's a crime to disobey a lawful order, an order is lawful only if it does not contravene superior authority. And so no person in the chain of command, including the CNC, may issue an order that violates the Constitution or the law of the United States. Sorry, judges. Indeed, the constitutionality prescribed form of the oath of office requires the president to execute the office of the president and to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, which of course says that you don't get to just murder people. And that's all incorporated into the UCMJ. And the military wouldn't do this anyway. So through rigorous instruction and tragic lessons from history, military officers are trained not to carry out unlawful orders. They know they may be held criminally liable if they do. In a televised interview during the presidential campaign of 2016, retired General Michael Hayden, who served as the director of the CIA, director of the NSA, would ask what would happen if petitioner, then a candidate for president, ordered the military to kill the families of terrorist targets. Hayden said, well, if he were to order that once in government, the American armed forces would refuse to act. Bill Maher says, what? That's quite a statement, sir. He says it's a violation. I thought the whole thing was you have to follow orders. He says, no, you cannot. You are not committed. You are not required. In fact, you are required not to follow an unlawful order. That would be in violation of all international laws and armed conflict. And so they say, look, amici agree with that. The military would not carry out a patently unlawful order from the president to kill non-military targets. And indeed, service members are required not to do so. And examples of military officers carrying out unlawful orders and murdering civilians are exceedingly rare in American history. One such example is the case involving Lieutenant William Calley, who executed civilians in Vietnam in what history calls the My Lai massacre. The trial judge's instructions included the following. Unless the superior order is one which a man of ordinary sense and understandings knows to be unlawful, jury instructions said, was this reasonable for him to say this was lawful or unlawful? Several American soldiers under Calley's commands refused to obey his orders. And although ordered by Calley to shoot, Private First Class James Dursey refused to join the killings. And Specialist 4 Robert E. Maples refused to give his machine gun to Calley for use in the killings. Neither Dursey nor Maples were ever charged in connection with those killings, but the others were. Now, the crimes committed by Calley over 50 years ago have not been forgotten. Military officers would know that a presidential order to assassinate a civilian for political ends would pose a grave criminal act, and that order would not be carried out. So a president cannot order an elite military unit to kill a political rival, and the members of the military are required not to carry out such an unlawful order, as it would be a crime. Now, to the extent that the judgment of the Court of Appeals was based on a contrary understanding, the judgment should be vacated or reversed, right? So it was just a ridiculous hypothetical that they made up to scare themselves into justifying why the president doesn't have immunity. And it was just a stupid question from the beginning. So nice brief. Shout out to our 3 former senior military officials who are coming out of the woodwork to support this and put to bed that ridiculous hypothetical. But hopefully that will quell some of the fear that is out there about dictator Trump. Not if Liz Cheney has anything to say about it. She's out here, and I wanted to just share a little bit of what she sounds like, just so we're apprised of what's happening. But she is now saying we have to have this election, this trial before the election. We have to have the trial before the election because Trump looks like he might win. Here's Liz.
Our justice system has to be able to work to hold him accountable, to have a trial on the January 6th evidence before the next election.
Yeah.
It's fundamentally important.
Have to do it.
And I think that in particular why this matters so much is because, Donald Trump, he knows what people have said when they've testified in front of the grand jury. He has all of that information.
No, he doesn't.
He knows. He's got all of the transcripts.
No, he doesn't.
All of the transcripts.
No, you deleted a bunch of those, Liz. We're missing a ton of those.
From the January 6th committee.
Benny Thompson deleted those. They're gone.
All of the evidence. He knows that the people who will testify against him in open court in that January 6th trial are those closest to him. They are people who were the most senior members of his administration.
Wrong.
People probably like the vice president.
Who are they going to say that he attacked someone's clavicle, Liz? Like they're going to come out and make up garbage lies that there is no corroboration for? And it took you 4 interviews with Cassidy Hutchinson to get her to change her story to make something useful? Got it.
The vice president's counsel, attorney general, the acting attorney general, the head of his campaign, all of the people closest to him will be testifying in open court about what he did, about his culpability, about what he was doing while the attack was happening.
That's not a crime. There are no crimes there. All of it's protected by presidential immunity, as hopefully the Supreme Court says soon enough. But here was another clip from Cassidy Hutchinson. Okay, this was the woman who said that someone told her that there was a clavicle attack when Trump was in the beast. Turns out that never happened. And the person she said that told her the story told Liz Cheney that that person never told her that story. So it was all made up, as we know.
This election itself is so much bigger than party politics. It's about the survival of our country.
Yes.
If we want to continue having elections in the future, we need to make sure that we vote for the candidate who ensures that we can survive as a country. And that candidate isn't Donald Trump.
Yeah.
But that said, too, we need to make sure that we're having
Harvard.
responsible conversations and we're not catastrophizing things. There are a lot of very smart, hardworking American people who are suffering financially right now, or they may have other reasons that they wouldn't want to vote for Joe Biden. But Joe Biden is a man of character and of decency, and I believe is an honest person with the American people who is fully committed to making sure that American democracy and our constitutional republic will survive past 2024 and 2028. So in this next election cycle, it's important to focus on Donald Trump, but it's also really, really imperative that we look at Congress, because Donald Trump would not be where he is, I'm confident, had he not warped almost the entire Republican Party in Congress to do his bidding.
So you see what they're going to do, man. They're assembling their TDS Spice Girl team. She's like the slow talk Spice or whatever. And they're just, going to be shoving her around all over the place throughout, between now and the election to come out and do that little routine. Our constitutional republic, save democracy. Biden's a man of character. Give me a break. All right, it's all a dumb facade. So her and Liz Cheney are continuing to do the Trump loves Hitler, Trump's a tyrant saga. We're going to be here continuing to cover this, my friends, because 3 former senior military officials say all of this fake hypothetical is meaningless. It is not consequential. The military would never do it anyways. But we're waiting for SCOTUS to hold oral arguments on the immunity issue. We're going to be covering it live when they do. And so thank you for joining us, my friends, here today. Don't forget to check out some of the links down in the description below. We've got robertgovea.com, where you can sign up for our newsletter and access all the PDFs we cover here, and watchingthewatchers.locals.com, which is where you can sign up to become a member, get the streams in the morning, get the streams on Saturday, and meet some amazing people inside. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to see you back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. Now it's time to hear from you, see what you have to say about these 3 former senior military officials who now support Trump's immunity, and what you think about Michael Cohen, who is a convicted perjurer who now, apparently, according to a federal judge, absolutely lied in one of 2 places. In Tish's courtroom with anger on, or in his perjury case in federal court. Let's see what you say about this, my friends. And of course, thank you so much for your generosity, your comments, your support, your amazing donos. Very grateful to have those in the house. And who is starting us off today on this incredible Thursday? None other than Sonia. What's up, Sonia, in the house? Sonia S. is our newest supporter on the YouTubes. Thank you, Sonia. Welcome aboard. Great to see you. We got Hey, it's the Munkets is bringing in more membos. We got Tony Hey bringing in Barb W. Chrissy's coming in. Deanne G, Donna F, and Victo in the house, all courtesy of Tony Hey. Thank you, Tony, for bringing in our newest of membos. Spuds on Locals says, the golf course she wants is in Briarcliff Manor, which is the home base of the Rockefellers. Hochul is trying to destroy home rule in New York so she can drop a whole bunch of legals there and then house them in some very wealthy, snobby areas. Yeah, well, we'll see what she does. I think it's detestable, and I think people will be disgusted if they seize his property. It's sick. Truth in Action says, totally freaked out about the potential of Letitia liquidating Trump funds. When will the grown-ups show up and stop the insanity? When I hear reports about it, I'm shocked. Seriously, I don't think I can watch it. It creates so much stress. With or without Trump, it's so much bigger than that. These freaking bullies, man. I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like people can't really wrap their head around $500 million, you know, but when people start stealing property, everybody goes, whoa, 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 what? You just seized his stuff? Yeah, we're living in a communist takeover, literally, right now. Good to see you, Truth. I know it's stressful, but we need you back here to stay plugged in. Sheila P says, I love how you make this both understandable and entertaining. Thanks. Thank you, Sheila. It's a nice compliment. Sometimes we can do it. Sometimes we can't, you know. Sometimes the news is entertaining and we're just here for the ride, baby. Hey, it's the Munkets. Tony bringing in 5 more. Matthew F, Matt M, SCVM's coming in. We got Brad N and Susan B. Courtesy of Tony. Hey, more from Tony. Knox is here, says happy Thursday all. I've been working much and missing the streams and all of you. I hope it's been a good day for everyone. It has. It's been a pretty good day, Knox. Pretty good week. We miss you too. Knox is a defense attorney in Texas out there fighting for justice. Good to see you, Knox. Hope you're doing well. This one is here from Ravicus, and this is an interesting one. There is going to be a reckoning. And what is that from? That is an interesting image. Hey, Chubby says, didn't Areola Engeron, a.k.a. the Nip, in his overinflated decision say he found Cohen believable in his testimony? Yes, he did that specifically. Yes. Can this be used to help the defense in any appeal cases? You know, I would say so, that a federal judge said he lied in one of 2 courts. So all of his testimony should not be relied upon at all. And it sounds like he probably lied in Engeron's court. So Engeron is at conflict, I think, with a federal judge. I'd say it is further proof of example of Areola's poor judgment. It should result in a mistrial in my mind, but I'm sure being New York, they'll just shrug and ignore it and try to sweep it under the rug somewhere. Yeah, it's clear, like the guy's clearly dishonest, and the judge said it's perfect. Another judge said no. Hey, it's the Munkets with 5 more. Tony, you're the man. Bringing in Gloria B, Steve C, Jesse W, 3 girlies. We got Robert M and Phil S all coming in thanks to Tony. Hey, Munkets, bringing in the membos. Thank you, Tony. Super generous today. Thanks for that. Dennis P says, please confirm which is correct. Endlish. He pleaded guilty or he pled guilty. You used the former on the Cohen story. I think legally, technically, it's pleaded guilty. But he pled guilty. I also will say that too sometimes. I think that's probably not accurate, but he pled guilty. I think it's he pleaded guilty is probably the accurate grammatical phrase. But like we say pled all the time, also in the law. Like, what did you like? Oh, that guy just pled, right? Like that guy pled guilty. Hey, what happened? Hey, I saw you were in court at 1:30. What happened with your client? Do you have trial tomorrow or what? No, I don't have trial. He pled out. So people say pled all the time, but I think when you're writing it, it's, Michael Cohen pleaded guilty. But, if you're a stickler for grammar, that's the right way to go. But people say pled all the time. Roy MC says, could it be the prosecutors are behind those attempts to give Cohen more credibility in the Bragg prosecution? So I think it's a very weak case. I think there's probably a good cop, bad cop thing going on, and that they don't really want this trial to go. So I feel like the DOJ was slow rolling the discovery drop to give Bragg a justification to bump this thing out. And they also, remember, the DOJ didn't bring the New York case. The DOJ had the opportunity to bring this Stormy Daniels case. They declined to do that. Why? And they're giving a bunch of discovery back over to the government. Maybe they have something on Michael Cohen, right? Some exculpatory evidence that they have to get over to Trump. I don't think it's to bolster Cohen's credibility. I think he shatters it every time he speaks. Stephanie, what's up? Our newest membo over on the YouTubes. Good to see you, Stephanie. Thanks for joining and becoming a membo. Knox is here. Says Cohen is such a Nimrod. Justia and Casemaker are both free. How did this guy ever get near Trump? I don't know. It's a good question, Knox. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he felt sorry for him or something. Yeah, there's Justia. We also have Fast Case in Arizona, I think is another one. But yeah, definitely not barred. Roger Needham is here. Says, please explain why you would support Donald Trump when he has repeatedly stated that it's a shame that people are suing cops and calling for more immunity for them. please explain why you would support Trump when he has repeatedly stated that it's a shame that people are suing cops and calling for more immunity for them. Oh, so you think it's like a little bit oppositional? Well, I mean, I'm not a single issue voter, so I might have some disagreements on criminal legal policy with Trump, if that's his position. But also, you know, my perspective on the police has shifted a bit, by the way. Like, there's no question about that. And if you've been here on this channel, like, you know that this channel started originally being very aggressive towards the police because nobody was being aggressive towards the police. I mean, you know, calling out police misconduct, essentially. But then George Floyd happened, right? And then the pendulum swung way too far to the other side. And we saw people like Derek Chauvin getting prosecuted. Again, right? Again, like, I'm a defense attorney. I care about the Constitution and the law more so than the defendant. And so even if cops are getting defended by insane political prosecutions, right, that is reprehensible. And that's what we started to see. So the cops went, you know, the momentum. And by the way, I've always had this position, you know, I think there's a conservative contradiction that exists between, you know, there's this, it's decoupling now. But there was a much, I think, a deeper connection between the police and conservatism. Like, conservatives were always just like pro cops all the time. And I'm sitting here thinking that's weird because the cops are just an extension of the state in many ways, right? When COVID happened, who was showing up to the hair salons and the gyms here in Scottsdale, Arizona, telling people to close down their businesses? The cops were. So, you know, there's a little like small government conservative, except I love cops, and any authoritative arm of the government has always felt inconsistent to me. So, you know, that being said, again, right, I think law enforcement and police have a legitimate role in society, clearly. And when the pendulum swang the other way and everybody was saying defund the police, I thought we're living in psycho land. Like, that's insane. So I no longer, you know, I didn't want to be a part of that. And the pendulum swang so far the other direction that the cops needed to be defended now. I'm like, what the heck just happened here? And everything happened very quickly. Like, the cops needed to be defended against the psychos who want who want all criminals free. I'm like, we have to all live in this society. Hello. So anyways, there's a lot cooking there, but there's a lot, you know, and again, I'm not a single issue voter. So and I think Trump in aggregate is much, much better than any other alternative by a mile. Says he also, Roger Needham, a couple from Roger, says he hasn't walked back his abuse of the EUA for the jabs, and he wants police to be protected from liability. He doesn't seem to fit your agenda. Well, I mean, I like a lot of the other things. You know, I think you're right about this. Like, this is a valid criticism. And I don't think he's going to walk that back, but I do think it is a valid criticism. And if you really wanted to, right, I could steel man that and come up with some good justifications from his perspective too. But on that issue, yeah, I'd like to see a mea culpa on. But again, you know, I mean, to be fair to Trump also, he was pretty consistently anti-mandate, right? If you wanted to go get that thing and put it in your body, that's your prerogative, right? You had the total freedom to do that. And he was very successful in getting it out there. And you can have your disagreements about that, but it wasn't something that I ever felt like he mandated. And I have a lot of criticisms, by the way, about how COVID was handled, but I feel like he was kind of facing an unstoppable force there. So I give him a little bit of fog of war grace on that. I know some people are very hard line on this. I am not, right? I know some people will say, I'll never vote for him because of that position. I'm not that person. I'll give him some fog of war grace on that. And I think for me, that issue, and that was our perspective here, was, you know, do what you want to do, right? People have different situations, different contexts. For some people, it's a good decision. For others, maybe not. And I'm fine with the personal freedom and the personal autonomy to make that decision. And if you made that decision or didn't, that's fine. But I had a problem with the mandates. I did not like the national emergency. I did not like the lockdowns at all. In fact, this show was basically born out of that era because I was so upset about it. But in aggregate, again, you know, these are some small issues that let me say that again. They're not small issues. They're big issues. But in aggregate, I think that Trump is still the right choice, right? Despite some of those small things, I think that we can look over or look past. Roger says, I love Rob's show, not trolling. I know you're not, Roger. That's why we're spending some time on it. I think the political prosecutions are a sham and a shame. Doesn't make Donald Trump better than RFK, though. Okay, so Roger's an RFK guy. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, interesting. And so I think if you are, if you're a jab-centric voter, if that's like your key issue, that's going to be a tough one for Trump to get over. I don't think he's going to change that. I don't think he's going to walk that back. So hopefully we're able to join the sides and get everybody together to get over that hurdle. But great questions, Roger. I appreciate it. And thanks for the opportunity to explain some of those issues today. Great questions. Chubby is here, says, it sure seems to me that Cohen and Avenatti could be brothers. They're definitely cut from the same cloth. Yeah, Avenatti's still in custody, right? He's still in prison. Too bad only one of them is still paying for their criminal activity. I sure hope it'll be both of them again soon. Yeah, maybe they'll be bros together at the jail facilities. ARC crime attorney says, Rob, you amaze me with having enough time to not only do these videos, but all the preparation you've done for the videos. Your knowledge and hard work are noticed by this attorney. Hey, thank you, ARC crime attorney. ARC, like Arkansas, good to see you. Criminal attorney, good to see you. Well, thank you, ARC crime. We're fired up about this stuff. So we're excited to be here, excited to get it done, excited to spend time together. So thank you for saying that, ARC crime. And thanks for the nice dono. Over on Rumble. Great to see you, ARC. We got Philip B says, Mom said to say, turn a sow's ear into a silk purse. Yeah, and here, sow, so Goose Toots says, sow's ear sounding like cow. Old hillbilly saying, can't make something good out of something bad. I was able to pick that up, but I've never heard that. Sow's ear, you can't turn a sow's ear into a silk bag. So it's like a cow? Is it a cow's ear into a silk bag? What? We don't know. Hey, Londo's here. Hey, thank you for that, Goose Toots. Londo says, Cohen is a liar, period. The end, period. Yeah, that's an accurate comment. That's actually very simple and true. Chubby says, the court has no basis to question Cohen's representation, except for all the perjury he's committed. Yeah, well, and Engeron thought it was all very truthful, even though it clearly was not. This one from Knox says, compare Steve Sadow to this clown pants fool, shaking my head. Yeah, right. Steve Sadow is very competent and very good and has shown tremendous success there in Georgia. Good to see you, Knox. Hey, Nitty Linny says, is there a risk that Cohen's prior bad acts will be excluded? Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I think there's a real high risk. So the judge said that Cohen can testify. And I think they can hit him with his perjury, but like, can they talk about this other case? Can they talk about his alleged lies? In the Tish case? Probably not. So how far is the judge going to let him go? Probably not far. It's Judge Juan Mercan. He's probably going to try to protect him as much as possible, just like Judge Engeron did, actually. So we'll see a repeat of that, no doubt. Essential Bites is here, says, I've watched as a subscriber for 2 years. Essential Bites, 2 years. Membo for 1 month, but a sub for 2 years. That's awesome. It's been a crazy 2 years, hasn't it? We're only warming up here. Good to see you, Essential. CGI Joe. A sow is a pig. Oh, all right. That's good to know. Says City Dude. It's true. I don't know. All right. CGI Joe, what's up? Is bringing in 10 membos. CGI Joe, thank you. Bringing in Janie C. Pure Blood's in the house. Matthew H, Don S, Sarah R, What About Me, Jesus F, Cynthia C, Trisha B. All coming in, courtesy of CGI Joe in the house. Good to see you, CGI Joe. Grateful to have you. Oh my goodness, look at this one. A big one. Thank you for this one. Miss Michelle S. Woo! Love that. Thank you, Michelle. Very generous. Says, I've been watching your show almost daily since 2019. Oh my goodness. Your subscribers at the time was below 25,000. Yeah, we've grown a lot. I'm grateful for it. I'm very excited about it. I've learned so much over the years. I did not know how to do a super chat, but now I do. Thank you for all that you do to put your daily show together. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle S. Very generous super chat. Looks like your first super chat ever. And it's an honor to have you here on our channel, here on our show. Thank you, Michelle. And it has been wild, right? Think of all the things we've covered in the last several years. And it's just it feels like it's getting crazier every year a little bit. COVID was pretty crazy. Things have kind of slowed down until the next black swan comes, which might be World War III or nukes or cyber attack or more balloons, who knows. But Michelle, really generous. Thank you so much for that. And I'm really grateful to have you here. And I'm glad that you've been here for so long. Hope you continue to join us. And thank you for the nice dono. We got Roger. What's up, Roger? Bringing in 5 new membos. Roger, thank you for doing that. Sean A, David R, Annie's coming in. Skippy Peanut Butter's here. Scott L, all in the house. Good to see you. Courtesy of Roger N. Thank you, Roger. Jane Catherine B, over on the Rumbles, says, one for your files. In 2018, Kerry Kennedy, former Mrs. Andrew Cuomo, led the successful fight for bail reforms in New York. That's interesting. So, former Mrs. Cuomo. Good to see you, Jane. Thank you for that. And this one from Cowboy Rob says, supporting perjury lawyers / DA punishment. That's certainly what it sounds like. Yeah, sounds like they were supporting the perjury lawyers, like Michael Cohen. And the DA should be punished. Hey, Spud says, Rob, see my note about Seven Springs Golf Course in Briarcliff Manor to put in low-income housing for illegals. Remember, when Obama was pushing to put high-density housing in neighborhoods, this is an opportunity to do that. From Spuds on Locals. Rob on Rumble says, according to the ACLJ, because the business is registered in New York to do business there, and it is a large company across the country and the world, they can go after any property the company owns anywhere. Talking about Tish. We'll see what she does. We'll see what she does. Hey, Angie Warren has been a member for 10 months. That's a baby +1. What's up, Angie? Says, thank you, Rob. I love your lives. Thank you, Angie. Oh, I love you being here. Thanks for being a member for 10 months, almost a full year. Grateful to have you. We got Pinochet says, I was hoping SEAL Team 6 were going to be busy, ... saving America. Rob is here. What's up, Rob? Says, anything that is owned by a partnership can't be touched, but they can put a lien on Trump's portion of it all. But it's all criminal what they're doing. Illegal lawfare, banana republic style. Right. Prosecuting opponents, imprisoning their supporters, draining their coffers with lawfare, making up claims of assault in a Bergdorf's from however long ago. The list goes on and on. David M. is our newest supporter over on Rumble. You can become members now on Rumble, which is super cool. Thank you, David, for joining up. We got Tony Hay Munkets. Oh, yeah, the red tie. He says, can we please get a red tie, please? One more month, I get a new badge. It's been a long haul, but I know I was here longer, but YouTube won't fix it. Tony Hay. Yes, I got to put that on my list. And I need to work on this. I need to help some help on this. But anyways, great stuff. Tony, 11 months as a membo. I know much longer. Red tie instead of the blue tie Trump gif. I'm on it. Let me add it to my list just right now while we're here. While we're here, add a task. Red tie Trump. All right, I'm getting better about these requests because I lose sight of them. But thank you, Tony. Hey, coming up soon. Pinochet says, last line of the oath of enlistment is, it clearly states, according to regulations and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, so help me God. And regulation equals the law. From Pinochet. So in other words, you're not going to murder the political opponents in America. Rob says, here's a solution. Trump should immediately donate all property to a trusted friend relative. Then they can't take anything from him because he doesn't own anything. It's one strategy. John Allen's in the house. What's up, John? John Allen's bringing in 5 membos. Wendy C, Dust in the Wind, Stu K, The Rooster, and 5-Star Angel all coming in courtesy of John Allen. John Allen, thank you, John, for bringing in 5 new membos. We got Indoctrination says, if Trump is elected, he needs to vet his staff much better. He made mistakes in his first term in this regard. Clean house and eliminate all unessentials. Yeah, I would agree with that. Hopefully we have a better field. This old guy says, what is scary about these people is that these people absolutely believe that Trump is going to destroy the country single-handedly. They bring a whole new level of stupid to the argument. Sheesh. I know, and it's interesting. They're like, Trump's going to wreck the country, so we should wreck it first. Trump's going to take control of the DOJ, and he's going to use it against us. So we'll just use it against him and wreck it before he's even in power, even though he didn't use it against us the last time, right? Trump's going to weaponize the DOJ. Did he do that last time? Trump's never going to leave office. Why did he last time? Londo says, good talk, bad stuff. I think America has had enough. Caps stuck. Good to see you, Londo. Rain says Trump should just become a squatter when James takes it. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, Trump can just put on some sweatpants and like a t-shirt from like 3 weeks ago and just open up the door and be like, it's my place, Tish, get out of here. And she'll be like, checkmate. He just takes it back. What are you going to do, arrest me? No. He'll call the cops. They'll arrest Tish. It's New York. Great one. Jennifer says, that meme was Billy Bob Thornton in Sling Blade, Rob. Sling Blade. I don't think I've seen that one, evidently. I might have to look it up. It looked ominous. It was an ominous look out there, like he was about to go take someone out. I kind of liked it. We got Joanne Kelly. Says, hey, Membo for 4 months. What's up, Joanne? Trump 2024 is the lovely message from our friend Joanne K. A Membo for 4 months. Beautiful. We got this from Sandy on Locals. Says, Seven Springs is a historical property. It was neutral territory during the Revolutionary War. The exact acreage has not changed by more than a couple of acres. This land was ungovernable, so neither side took control. Donald Trump treated this with great respect. Gaddafi set up a tent after the USA banned him from being welcome in the USA for a UN meeting. It must still hold its neutral status. Interesting. Yeah, Knox says he enters a guilty plea, then he has pled out. Right. Yeah, he enters a guilty plea, and then he has pled out. First Amendment says, Rob, are you following the Mike Lindell case? I downloaded it today and I started looking through it. He says he is saying that SCOTUS will be considering the case. Any insight? That poor man has been through the ringer too. Yeah, I mean, look, my optimism so I did download the petition, and I think that the SCOTUS is probably not going to accept it if I had to just take a guess. But I was looking through it, and I think that there is interesting information. The reason I say that is because the Supreme Court just doesn't look at new evidence. That's just not what they do. They just don't. So, I mean, they can, and sometimes they do, but just generally, they're not going to, if you have like new evidence and you're like, hey, Supreme Court, look at this. They're not going to get into the nitty gritty on all of that. They're concerned about legal issues and whether there was a major question of law that is causing the country to not work. I don't think that they're going to accept certiorari if I had to shoot from the hip on that one. But I'm still reading through it. It actually is interesting. I live in Arizona, and it's a disaster here. So I'm just curious because it's right in my backyard. But I did just pull it up today, actually. I just downloaded it today. So thank you first. And we'll see where it goes. We got Joe Maz says, if Trump is seriously considering Tim Scott for VP, I think that would be an indication that Trump hasn't learned his lesson well enough. Richard Paul's in the house. Good to see you, Richard Paul. Thank you for the dono on the YouTubes. We have this one. Londo says, please explain your infatuation with your favorite hobby. You need a softball. What's my favorite hobby? I don't know. What do? I live stream and lift weights, basically. I don't know. That's it, really. We got Rob is here. Says, illegals have figured out squatters' rights are taking over people's houses. Citizens have been arrested for removing these migrants. Neighbor vigilante stuff is happening, beating up the illegals and looking the other way. Yeah, civil war coming to a neighborhood near you. We got Cowboy Rob says, why can't soldiers on the border, why can't they open fire? Well, a lot of reasons. Illegal because of laws. Illegals tearing down the fence and rushing the border. I know. because Biden would prosecute them for murder and then they would go to prison for it. We got E. Harris says, does anyone know which document Bob Ulinsky mentioned yesterday? CFP in Southern New York in 1,200 pages. I resorted to AI, still couldn't find which document. Oh, and 8 days of testimony, according to Bob Ulinsky. I don't know, E. Harris. We'll see if anyone else out there has a handle on it, but good to see you. Thanks for the dono. Ruby Diamond Sapphire says, is there a statute of limitations for treason? You might need to brush up on military law, as hopefully we will see tribunals soon. Glad I found the channel, and thanks for all you do. US, US, US. Good to see you, Ruby. Thank you for the dono and for the nice comment. I don't know if there is a statute of limitations on treason. That's a good question. I mean, most crimes have statute of limitations, but there are some that do not. And you could make the argument that there shouldn't be one for treason. When it's discovered, that's treason. So we'll keep our eye on it. Thank you, Ruby. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Look at this one. Dolphin fan is the man in the house, bringing in some serious membos. We got Dolphin fan is bringing in Porchview Farm. We got Patrick B, Nola, Melanie S, Maito is here. Scott, what's up? Smoke Jaguar, Andy K, Life Matters is here. Mr. Robot, Sodium Soldier, Gloria H, Oni Chan, Chris H, Oink Oink is in the house. We got Mama Bear, welcome. Rage Star, Daryl B, Matt O, Sean E, Rokin, Beach Girl, Alicia, Beatrix S, Darrow, Robin, Tyler G, Yorick, and Brian E, all coming in. 20 membos, courtesy of Dolphin Fan, is the man in the house. K Bean says there is no statute of limitations on treason. That sounds about right. Yeah, and Ice Girl says any federal felony punishable by death has no statute of limitations. Treason is a federal crime that does carry the death penalty. Therefore, no statute of limitations. Amazing. Yeah, that sounds right. Good to know. Good. That's a fun fact. Good stuff. Okay, we're learning. We got CGI Joe says, okay, look at this. CGI Joe's bringing in even more members. Sir Toenail Cupcakerson, welcome. Jacob Z, Tina C, Pip is here, and Unacism is joining us. Welcome aboard, and thank you, CGI Joe, for bringing in 5 new membos. We got Felix says, a sow is a pig. City dude. I'm learning a lot today. We got Rain is here, says you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, out of a pig's ear. Be unable to turn something ugly or inferior into something attractive or of value. A pig's ear is a sow. Sow? Like a cow? Sow or sow? Sow? All right. I'm going to have to look this up. Sow. It's the same pronunciation as cow. Sow is a female pig, so the hard skin of a sow will never be as soft as silk. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll take your word for it. I don't know. I mean, I've never really finagled a pig's ear. You know, maybe I should. I don't know. Felix, what's up? Says, don't cast pearls before pigs' sayings. That's a good one. Yeah, I think isn't that in the Bible or something? Good to see you, Felix. Jack Mack says, whoa, Jack, what a nice dono. Thank you for this. Says, it's cute how everyone knows how COVID should have been handled. Right. It was a 100-year event. We were all on board with lockdowns in 2020, continuing them into 2021 and 2022 is an issue though, but that wasn't Trump. Yeah. I agree with that. It would be nice if Trump kind of moderated that position a little bit. I don't think that's going to happen. But I agree, right? It was the fog of war. There was a lot that we didn't know. And, ultimately, I think the reasonable position, which I think was Trump's, was provide options, right? Provide options. Remember, he was out there talking about Regeneron and all these things. It's like options. They even gave him guff about the light in the lungs and stuff like that. So he was just creating solutions. And if you wanted to take that solution, if that was something you wanted to, go through, you could do it. And then it turned into mandates, and it was a wild time. I mean, everybody folded, everybody. And I was shocked watching it, right? Even defense attorneys who I looked up to and other people who I thought in our society would be strong and stand up. They all just buckled. And, it's hard to blame them because we didn't really know what was going on in those first couple months. We thought that people were dropping dead all over the place in China and stuff. I mean, it was a really, really precarious position. So I think there's, that's not fatal in my perspective. I think that there is a lot that we've learned from that, and hopefully we can move beyond it. But the other side was the side I think responsible for exacerbating it, for extending it, for castigating everybody who didn't do what they wanted to do, for censoring everybody, right? The other side, like Trump versus the other side, it's not even a question, right? On what happened when Joe Biden came in. How suddenly they were castigating the jab until suddenly they got the jab, and then they were all, shoving it all in their eye sockets. So yeah, there's a lot there. It's a great comment, Jack. It's a great comment. But, by the same token, it's like we want repercussion for all of that. There should be some response to that, some consequence, so that doesn't happen again, because this whole country shifted out of 2020 and it's not the same country at all, not even close. So thank you, Jack. And I'm like many of you, very upset about that. And what is the repercussion? I've seen other people say like they're not going to support Trump over this issue. Some people on X specifically have made that point. And I'm thinking, come on. Like, that's going to be fatal to your support for him? We can agree to disagree on this, but let's make the right decision now. Let's not linger on that one. All right, good to see you, Jack. Hey, Essential Bite says, yes, a sow is a pig. And they have ears that are apparently not as good as a silk purse. Cowboy Rob says, what is the punishment for supporting perjury for a DA? Well, it's a good question. I mean, it would be the same penalty as anybody else, but you think that maybe there would be some aggravating factors because they're a DA and they should know better. They have a higher standard of care and they've sworn an oath and all the things. So maybe whatever the standard penalty is, but the aggravated term. Geg says, I encourage all of you who have concerns about Trump's actions or the cabinet when reelected to get on his Truth Social and talk to him. You know he does his own tweets. Start with a compliment to satisfy that part of his personality, then deliver your well-thought concern. If he hears from enough of us, we can move the needle. I love that, Geg. Yeah, I think it's important to participate and share your thoughts. I mean, how can he know if he's not hearing from you? And by the way, this is working, right? Every time he posts something on Truth, he gets obliterated in the comments. Like, the Truth people are not on board with this at all. He says, the jab was great. Everybody says, wah! So maybe he's seeing some of that. Maybe he'll moderate it in the future. Will C says, a sow is a female pig. Ow in sow is pronounced like saying ow when something hurts. Ow like cow like a sow with the ear. Londo says Trump needs an independent Trump backstabber vetting investigation team to root out all the jackals. I'll help. There's a lot of them. Grumpy says, okay, the statute of limitations for treason is 1789. LOL, clear as day. Uniform justice, military is the only way. From Grumpy Knuckles. Good to see you, Grumpy Knuckles. Yeah, good to know. Now we know. Gag says, Robert, there's also the phenomenon of communists coming together because, yeah, you got it. Birds of a feather flock together. There, now you have another one. They do come together, and they organize, by the way. I walk around here in downtown Phoenix, and every now and then I'll see a sticker on a light post. It's like communist organization something. I'll take a picture of it when I see another one. But it's like, go to this website. People pull them down, so like they're not on there for a long time, but people will post them up, and they're like, go to, imacommunist.org or whatever, and like become a communist with us. I'm like, yeah, well, they're organizing. Knox is here, says, remember when everyone chastised Trump when he wanted the church open for Easter? They blamed him for every single death. I remember. It was very unfair. They had the COVID death counter scoreboard. You remember that? The red counter of death on every TV screen. And then as soon as Trump lost the election, it went over to the green. It went from red deaths to green jabbed, like overnight. Suddenly, Biden and Harris have gotten 100,000 jabbed or 1 million jabbed. 17% of America's finally jabbed. Yeah. And racing faster than ever. from the green scoreboard down from the death counter that Trump had. It's all just propaganda. Sandy says, about Trump and the jab, he calls it warp speed. Do you remember the MSM telling him he can't do this because it requires 70 below zero to store and transport it? I do. He brags about warp speed, but what if warp speed, he stopped the plan with high doses of something, thimerosal? What if he stopped a great problem with warp speed? Yeah, right. Look, yeah, again, I'm not a medical doctor, and so I think that there are very likely situations where somebody was highly benefited from this. And did it save their life or not? Right? You know, each case is its own unique situation, but at least the option was available, right? And if those people wanted it, they could take it. And if they didn't, they didn't. Former says, Rob is young. I thought that making a purse out of a sow's ear was common knowledge. It is now. We're learning about it. Not going to forget it. Sow like owl, like cow. We got former says, of course Tush would go after the golf course to further the left's class warfare. Of course she would. And Londo says, there is no one better than Trump. Live with it and don't make stupid choices, says Londo. Grumpy Knuckles says, I'm not a Q-tard. I'm a historian. Don't even follow Q. I just watch history. There's a lot to learn from history from Grumpy. And very nice to see you, my friends. Great questions today. And thank you for allowing us to dig in on some of these topics. Conversation will continue, of course. Let's say hello to our friends on the X platform before we go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com to see who's joining us over there. You can follow us on X at Rob Govea ESQ. This is what it looks like over there. And we'd love to see you come and follow us. Let's see who is joining us on the day. Do we have any comments in the house on X? We certainly do. What's up, Phil Reno? DM Jackson says, we got a major swamp creature we're dealing with here. I don't know whether to laugh or to cry. We got Liz W. Rando in the house. Alfred Newman. Hey, what's up, Alfred? Says, hey, thanks for all you do. I live in California, and your afternoon show has superseded all the others on my TV. What a nice thing, Alfred. The best way to watch. You're always informative and entertaining. Sometimes I nap a bit if my eyes get heavy, but your loud exclamations wake me up. Wake up, Alfred. Good. All right, good. That's good. Good to see you, Alfred. Well, thanks for tuning in, my friend, and thanks for checking in from California. And naps are great. You know, naps are beautiful. So I'm glad you're getting those in. It's good for you. We got Salty Sarge says, has Cassidy been taking speech lessons from Kamala? Here's one. Rando says, I prefer to watch on X, but I don't think there's a way to give a super chat. Am I missing something? I don't think so. I think they're probably working on that over there at the X platform. Salty's in the house talking about some Trump stuff. Thank you, Ryan. Says, this just keeps getting better. Penny says, I always learn a lot from the breakdown. Salty, good to see you as well. And Raven Madness. Yeah, remember this from, what was that from? Spaceballs, right? May the Schwartz be with you. V is never silence over there. James Pepper is over there. Says, what if a sow's ear identifies as a silk purse? Good question. I don't know. Then the whole universe collapses, I think. So James Pepper, the documents from today's show are not on the website yet. They will be up on the website tomorrow. So as soon as we're done, we save them. Then they get re-uploaded. And so, my friends, that is it for the day. Shout out to our friends on X. Thank you to my friends for your amazing donos. Before we wrap it up, NY sent this one in from Locals, says, since I lived through the pandemic on the front lines, I'd like to give my insight on the jab. Says it likely saved my life. Remember, every pill can be a poison depending on the context. Just because it was good for me as a frontline doctor doesn't mean it was good for everyone or whether it was forced on everyone. Yeah, there you go. Another good comment, right? So I think the big problem that I had with this entire conversation was, first of all, our access to information was limited, right? It was commandeered. It was censored. So we couldn't actually get truth because everyone was telling us something different. And even our government was telling us, remember, no masks, then don't mask, then this. And it felt like it was all made up and fake off the cuff. And by silencing us, we didn't have access to good information. By limiting our choices, we were boxed into making certain decisions, which just conveniently happened to support the major pharmaceutical companies and guys like Fauci. So by limiting our speech, it limited our knowledge, which made our choices uninformed. But as long as we can have informed choices, I'm fine with multiple choices, right? If you want to try that therapeutic or try that therapeutic or put that pharmaceutical in your body or whatever, that's your prerogative. Do your research and make a decision. Maybe it's good for you. Maybe you have some comorbidities, or maybe you're overweight, or maybe you're elderly, or whatever the issue is. But the mandates, the forcing, the castigations, the checking your card, right? You can't come into our country, right? You can't come to our wedding if you don't get the jab. It's like, oh my, you're going to lose your job. That was insane. That was insane. And keeping kids out of school and all of that stuff, it was insane. It still makes me so mad. I can't even take it. It's like, I can feel my blood pressure rising as we speak. Sandy says, people thinking Trump should transfer property need to understand that if he does such, the AG gains authority to seize everything due to a fraudulent transfer. He has to be 100% above board right now. Good comment on that, Sandy. Yeah, we don't want to give Tish any unforced errors in her communist takeover. And so thank you for that, Sandy. Very, very nice to see you. Okay, my friends, that is it for us on the day. We are going over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Don't forget to sign up for our daily newsletter at robertgovea.com and then forward the daily newsletters to everyone you've ever met or known. Watcherlodge.com is a great place where you can check out our latest masterclass, Living with Meaning and Purpose, and it's a great 2-hour session. There's workbooks, PDFs there, so download those and zoom in on Living with Meaning and Purpose. We're heading to locals. We'd love to see you over there, and we'll be there. Before we leave, want to say thanks to our mods and our meme smiths. Vienticus Prime, K Bean in the house, Just Cause, Playing Hooky, our friend Ronnie, Zulu, Beyond Geo, Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janek 909, Dog Digger, and Donut Mind Me in the house. Our meme smiths, Jigum Gigum, Nathan N810, and Sleepy Dog Lee, keeping the place nice and beautiful. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. It's a beautiful Thursday. Tomorrow's going to be Friday. And we're going to be back here to get into whatever the day has in store for us. And we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.